extent. So she is going to run our little class today, and it's always huge nuggets that you leave or inform us of that we haven't thought of or we should remember. So we'll let you take it away. Thanks, Dionne.
All right, no problem. I hope I'm able to leave some good nuggets. And I am going to share my screen. So be patient with me as I
And I did
do
email
that.
everyone yesterday, so we have probably like possibly 5 more people that will probably join. And if life happened and they can't, we got this recorded. So thank you.
Absolutely. And I have the recording of the one that you guys were not able to record that I did last month because I actually did that webinar again. So I'll be getting that over to Chris so you guys can post it on your YouTube page. Um, so turning leads into closings. I want to give background on it before I talk about it because it's not a get rich quick scheme. It's not make millions in 6 months. It's none of that. What it is you taking the leads that you have and just working them the correct way so that they actually lead into closings, so that you're honoring the information that that bar gave you and taking them to where I just realized I have on my bracelet from the ball game that I went to. I didn't even know I had it on until I saw it in the in my video camera. Um, it, it's it's strategies. Okay, when I get the lead, this is what I do. And while it might seem like just a natural thing for us to do, us that are seasoned, why it might be something natural for someone to do who is, been in the industry for a long time, or they've been mentored by a lot of people. These are actually issues that I go over and talk to people about on a daily basis. I'm not going to go into I'm not going to go into any of my background because I feel like I'm around, among family right now, and you guys know who I am. But I do want to give my disclaimer because I don't want anybody sending me any hate mail. This course aligns with industry standards, but is not exhaustive and supplements rather than replaces guidelines. Investor overlays vary, and we can't guarantee the file review outcomes. The material is for informational purposes only, not legal compliance advice. Content reflects current best practices and may change. Opinions are personal to Dionne Bass, founder of Ask the Underwriter. So these are just things that I direct people to do, that I kind of give them advice about, and it works. I do want to say that everything is not one size fits all. That is actually one of the things, one of the reasons why you want to make sure that you have a system. So we're going to talk about qualifying leads to maximize conversations, challenges and lead conversions, and bars successful, and kind of guiding the bars successfully through to the closing. This slide always gets me because I forget that it's like a live slide and I have to click it. I'm like, why is there a blank slide inside of my presentation? Now, this is the normal process. Like they take the application, they may or may not request a document. They pull the credit report, they run it through the AUS, and then they're like, okay, I need all this documentation. And then they get that documentation and then they send it to the lender, and then they wait for the lender to give them their answer. Okay. Um, but this is where the frustration comes in because when you use the quote unquote normal process, or when you allow yourself to I'm sorry to say this, but take shortcuts and send it to the lender, it's not a shortcut anymore. Because now you've gone from finding out what's going on with your loan in the very beginning when you first review it to about a week or so after, when you've already told the borrower, hey, let's do this, let's buy this house, let's refinance. And then they come back with something different. And so this is what I propose. What I teach my clients, my mentees, um, my I like to call them mentees. I know that mentors are usually not paid, but I have a paid mentoring program, and I call them my mentees because I'm mentoring them. Um, this is the method that I teach my people. You take the application, and while you're taking that application, All right. This is when you're actually ordering the documents. And the reason why you're ordering the documents right here is because the application is the introduction to your client. This is when you're learning about where they used to work at, where they where they work at now, where they used to live, where they live now. How do they earn their money? Someone telling you that their salary and that their base income and that their overtime, that's not them telling you, that's them guesstimating. This is where those questions come in so that you can ask for the correct documentation. I want you guys to notice something. 1, 2, and 3, you do not see AUS findings anywhere here. Nowhere. Because we shouldn't even be thinking about AUS findings. Let's look at this information first. This is where you're looking at the documents that they have submitted, because sometimes it takes a while for those documents to come. They might have to dig them up. You pulled the credit report. You're reviewing that credit report to see what's going on. Are there any surprises in there? What's the address history looking like? Is there an alert on the credit report that you need to be aware of? And then you're looking at that application, and if there's any documentation, you're asking questions about that income. Well, when you say that you earn a salary of $5,000 a month, you pay hourly. Do you really work 40 hours a week? These are important questions. And I have been saying this for 2 years, and it's just now catching up with everybody. COVID completely changed the landscape of how people work, how often they work, and the hours that they work. You know, Varying hours used to be something that was kind of like exclusive to like overtime, nurses, and stuff like that. But the average person now works varying hours because they're not usually the same anymore because of how flexi time works and everything. Now, what I propose is it's not until you go through all of this information that you go ahead and do that pre-approval. The pre-approval is your AUS findings. This seems like a lot of information, but I can tell you that when I go over all of this information, the application, the income, the credit, assets, I've never seen a file that had all the assets up front. So that's kind of why I don't put it there. But when I go over these documents with my people, that AUS is an actual pre-approval. And that's how you get from leads to closing. You actually issue pre-approvals that are really pre-approvals. You issue pre-approvals that have actually been thought through, that have actually been questioned. Now, not counting undisclosed information. Now, here are the types of files that I review: qualified loan files, with completed applications, address verified. Why am I verifying the address? Because we need to make sure that it's in certain parameters. If it's USDA, if it's FHA, we want to make sure that it hasn't been sold in a certain amount of time. We want to make sure that that it's credit ready. Income's been verified, assets have been verified. If your borrower doesn't have the assets up front and they're going to get you that information, question them about those assets. Okay, great. I don't have the assets. I can't see them now, but let me ask you a few questions. Have you made any large deposits? Are there any debts that are on your credit, that are on your bank statements that are not reflected on your credit report that would raise a red flag? I'm not saying we can't get around that. I'm just saying let's not have any surprises in the end. And this makes you knowledgeable. This makes the person more comfortable with you because you're asking all the right questions up front. Now, prospective files. The application is started, not really complete. It may or may not have an address. The credit may not have been reviewed. Income is questionable. Assets are questionable. And that prospective file is the file that's more than likely not going to make it to the closing table as quickly as you may like for it to be. Now, how many times have someone said, I wish I had known before? So, prospective leads, application started, no address, credit review, questionable income, and assets. Let's talk about the hot spots on that application. So we're going to go through a few of these things now. The 2-year employment history, now this area is not exhaustive. I'm just breaking down what I've just gone over with you guys. That 2-year employment history is not only important when it comes to FHA, you know, how, oh, what if there's a gap or whatever have you, but it's important in conventional too, because people don't stay in jobs for as long as they used to anymore. I mean, how many of you realize that? Like, I mean, you might see someone somewhere for like a year or a year and a half. You know, people are going back to school. So the 2-year history is not always a given. Now, I know that Arrive, and I'm not to advertise anybody, but I know that Arrive kind of has like a little marker there that tells you if there's a gap or if there's not quite a 2-year history. So you kind of have like an alarm system that tells you, but it's something that's extremely important, especially when you're trying to average certain incomes or you're trying to use certain incomes, and you need to make sure that they've had a certain amount of income at that particular job. Now, missing taxes and insurance for real estate owned, you know, borrowers who have additional property, that's not something you want to know later. That is not, because if you rerun your findings and that comes back higher than you anticipated, you know, it could make or break your deal. There's so many different tools that you can use to check and see what those taxes are. Insurance, you know, we use the old school 1% divided into 12 or 1.5, but just always try and use realistic numbers to estimate, because I don't care what anybody says, there is no $75 a month homeowners insurance and there is no $75 a month taxes. Yet that seems to be the go-to for everybody, $75 or $100 as the estimate. If someone tells you that they're having this overtime and it's income, excuse me, and it's commission and it's bonus and stuff like that, I want you to pinpoint them. I want you to, I hate to use the word interrogate. I think one of the webinars that I did, I call it the application shakedown. Like you're shaking the person down for as much information as possible, because you want all this information in the beginning. Because, like that previous slide said, I wish I had known, you know, now what, you know, excuse me, I wish I had known. If I, no, it said if I only had known, I'm sorry. This is going to be stuff that you wish you had known earlier. Believe it or not, student loan payments are often missing. And I, you know, no software, maybe when they see this video, they'll update it. But there's not an LOS software yet that says, hey, this is a zero. Should this actually be a zero? It doesn't say anything. And so when those student loans populate, people run the findings and they just keep it moving. Now, when they come back or when it goes to underwriting, it comes back with like $500, $600, $700 worth of student loan. Once again, stopping you from getting to that closing table. Surprises are not always good. I like a good surprise party and a good surprise gift, but nobody wants a surprise when it comes to originating an FHA loan and then finding out that it was sold within the last 60 to 120 days or something like that. Excuse me, 90 to 180 days. And now they can't close, or they have to order a second appraisal. Number one, the second appraisal, you can't even charge them for the second appraisal. Two, that still takes time. This is stuff that you can find out seconds of taking that application. While you're talking to them, you could be searching that. Does the condo work for this program? Bam, okay. Oh, let's look at the taxes while we're here, looking at, you know, looking up this property in Zillow. Are the taxes shown? Does the property, see, it's this right here. This is this for VA. I'm sorry. I thought I had the one for FHA. Searching that address to look at that history. When was that property sold? This is so huge. So very huge. I don't know why you don't hear the FHA flip conversation as much as you used to, but it's still relevant and it's still very, very important. VA, the same thing. Search them. Conventional. Search those condos while you're on the phone with them, and then search all of them. What's it going to hurt to search all of them? How many times have you started off conventional and it ended up FHA? You started up off FHA and you ended up conventional. Cover all your bases. especially, as brokers, because we have so many options. Um, Now, this is the average pre-qualification. It's the big three: the application, the credit report, and the AUS findings. What do you check for conventional condo? So Fannie Mae has a list, has a condo search list too. I will find it and I will send it to you guys so that you can check those too. All right, hold on a second. Now, what ends up happening is real estate partners, and if I have a real estate partner on this call, please, please, please don't be offended. Real estate partners pressure you for a pre-approval. They want it. They want it. They want it. They want it now. And so we'll run that AUS finding. We'll do that application. We'll do that credit. We'll run it. Okay, good. They're good to go. But not really asking any questions because they want it quickly. And what I propose is you set a standard. What I propose is you say, I can take an application, but I am going to have to ask questions. I might even need information because remember, my name is on this because and I know that if it doesn't go through, the real estate agent is going to be looking at you funny, and they're not under any circumstances going to remember saying to you, I need this quick. I need this quick. Um, don't get left holding the bag. Do your due diligence and do a great pre-approval. No pre-qualifications without verification. That's what I say. Because a purchase is way different than a refinance. We've got earnest money involved. We got other people that are expecting this to close. And so don't be afraid to ask for documentation. We live in a digital age now. For you to ask someone for their pay stub, unless they work for a very small company, um, they can pull up their pay stubs in the payroll department, like their payroll online presence or whatever have you. And even the ones that just get regular paychecks or whatever have you, they can take a picture of that with their phone and they can send that to you, or they can upload it directly into your system. Of course, for what word am I looking for? Privacy issues. They can take a picture and upload it right into your LOS system. Do not be afraid to ask for documentation. If you don't ask for the documentation early, later on, they're going to ask you, why didn't you ask them this before? Now, here are some of the documents that you kind of want to have. For refinances, you definitely want the HOA to tax cert, any HOA information. Sometimes you can get that from Zillow. Sometimes you can get tax information from Zillow. Sometimes you can get HOA information from Zillow, Redfin, or any of those other ones. And the reason why I say that is because I don't want you guys to use $100 or $75. Use a number as close as possible. Any payment arrangement agreements, IRS agreements, especially right now with tax season. People have filed their taxes, they might owe money, and they might have to make payments. You need those tax payment agreements. Student loans. If you're dealing with Fannie and she allows you to use $0 for payments, you need that document showing that it's actual $0 for payments. We just can't use the credit report. We need documentation to show that. For purchase, I know that people like to throw in our face, well, you only need to source earnest money deposit for FHA if it's like 1% or whatever. We still need to know that it exists. We still need a cancel check. We still need to earn, a money order or a cashier's check or whatever have you. We need all pages to the sales contract. Believe it or not, even in this digital world, we are still missing addendums. We're still missing pages to sales contracts. That always cracks me up when I talk to real estate agents. I'm like, how are you guys losing pages on a digital document? Purchase HOI quotes. You can go online and get an HOI quote just so that you have an idea of what's it going to be. Tax certs, go to the county, and if you have an LOA or a processor, they can help you. But if you're dealing with a certain city, then you'll get used to and know exactly where to go to get that tax cert. Quick credit tips. So check your list twice. Yes, that is Santa Claus. Let me explain to you my method of reviewing credit for my newbies. Um, Going through a credit report is extremely intimidating, especially for newbies. Remember, I deal with originators and processors. They're about 1 to 5 years old. And so what I do is I tell them to search certain words. And the reason why I have them search certain words, I don't have them search the word charge off. I don't know why that's there. But the reason why I have them search certain words is because I want those to be top of mind at all times. Lease agreements, they don't know that you can't omit a lease agreement if it's 10 months or not. And so the reason why I have that on their list is because once you look at something over and over again, it gets inside of you. You understand, you know it. As far as student loans go, I told you people are constantly missing those student loan payments or they're not documented. I want that on your radar immediately. Look up student loans. Look up real estate and mortgage. See if their existing mortgage has been transferred or has been refinanced so that you can get that whole 12-month history. I had them look up HELOC. That's where charge off, where it says charge off, it should say HELOC or home equity line of credit. Why? Because what if the HELOC or the home equity line of credit has a zero balance? Then it's more than likely not going to be at the top of that credit report list. It's going to be at the bottom somewhere because it hasn't been used. But it's still relevant because it's still a part of the equity, the HCLTV and the CLTV. Public records are huge. They're usually at the very bottom. Depending on the credit company that you use, they could be at the top or they could be at the bottom. I've seen them both places. We all know that disputed accounts are a definite pipeline stopper. All the pages that are involved in a credit report, if you're going through them and you're skimming too fast, you could possibly miss it. So I always have them search that word, disputed. And then my last but favorite, alert. Everybody in the world knows how to put a credit alert on their credit report. You would be surprised. And this was like as I think the last time I underwrote live files was about 2.5 years ago. I worked for Fannie 2.5 for the past 2 years or so. And you would be surprised that there are no alerts. No one's addressing those alerts. The bars put those alerts on their credit report. Hi, someone may have my identity might be compromised. Please verify my identity with me. As a live underwriter, like we get all the way to the end. We get all the way to clear to close. They're fussing and they're cussing because we can't close. And I'm like, the condition has been there since day one. You were supposed to verify the borrower's identity. All you have to do is just talk to them and say, so they can say that, yes, they give us permission. Get all of this stuff done in the beginning. So this is your credit. Check your list twice. Review those items to see how they'll affect your loan. Now, here's just a quick cheat sheet on student loans. If it's Fannie, 1%, or if you can document that there's $0 in payments, then you can use $0. For Freddie, FHA, and USDA, we know that they're 0.5%. VA is a little different, and it's 5% of the balance divided into 12. Now, this is big for me. For those variations, especially since we're going into refinance season, as people are starting to become a little bit more comfortable in refinancing, some people own multiple properties. Make sure you're checking those address variations, because what if the address variation has the borrower reporting 2 different properties within the past year or so? You want to be able to verify, or you want to be able to address it before the underwriter says anything and starts to ask a bunch of questions. Hey, this is what's going on. Yes, that was right there, but that was because they had to turn, utilities on for their mother or something, or, something that happened that triggered it to still report it for that year. Employment variations. I can't tell you how many times I've seen some sketchy pay stubs in the credit report, a completely different job on there. Like, pay attention to this stuff. Reviewing a file and looking at discrepancies is everybody's job. It's not just the lender's job. It's the originator's job. It's the processor's job. It's everybody's job. And then most importantly, Social Security number variations. Make sure all those Social Security numbers are there. Frozen credit. Your AUS will still run with frozen credit, with frozen trade lines, but no lender is going to close it because no lender is going to say, we trust the bar, go ahead and close it. No, the guidelines specifically state that it's the lender's responsibility to make sure that there's nothing kind of like hidden. Yes, we will be sharing this presentation. I believe that you guys posted on YouTube, right?
Yeah, we're trying to keep all of our video going.
I was just on a Zoom, but you too.
So income review. Now, I am never, ever, ever asking anybody to underwrite alone. I totally get it. Underwriting takes time. I don't care what type of technology you use, but if you want to do a good job, it takes a little bit of time. All I want you to do for your income is, if you've got a pay stub, make sure that the year-to-date earnings, that the base income is supported by the year-to-date earnings. If there's overtime and bonus, ask a few more questions. Did you earn overtime and bonus the previous year? What about the year after that? Is it like a one-time thing? Ask these questions. If you've got a borrower that has an S corp or a partnership, and you've got those tax returns, take a quick glance. See if that K1 reflects ordinary income or distributed income. And I know I haven't done a self-employed borrower class talking about stuff like that. And that is something that we can do at a later time. But all of these things take seconds. And I've proven it to my people over and over again. They start off completely overwhelmed. And then after that, it might take them anywhere between 15 to 20 minutes to review a file and make sure that it's ready to move on to the next step. And this is just, once again, a guide. Are those year-to-date findings, is that base income supported? I can't see on this little bitty screen I'm looking at, so I'm going to turn my head and look over here. You can see on this first example that those are not supported. The bar supposedly makes $3,900 a month, but so far the year-to-date findings, they don't support that. They don't support that in any of these examples. This is not something you want to know after the loan goes to underwriting. This is something you want to know before the loan goes to underwriting. And I will actually be sharing my pre-qualification workflow, and it addresses all of this. So stay tuned for that. Ordinary income versus distributed income. So these are the K1s for these two. And see these two numbers, see these two boxes right here? So on the 1065, it's number 1 and 19. On 1120S, it's number 1 and 16. Why is this stuff important? Because when you're dealing with self-employed borrowers, and if they can't go non-QM, I know non-QM has significantly reduced the number of self-employed borrowers that we see, but we still do see some of them. Then there are certain steps that we need to take. You want to know ahead of time if you need to take additional steps. It takes seconds for you to find out. And what are you looking for? You want to know if the distributed amount either matches or is higher than the ordinary income. Why? Because the ordinary income is not a real number, but the distributed amount is what they actually distributed to themselves. And what Fannie and Freddie want to know is, can the business really support that income going to the borrower? Like I said, that's another class for another day, but it takes seconds for you guys to look at this and see. And you can take a snippet of this so that it's, top of your mind. And then here is my absolute last and my absolute pet peeve. Please read your findings. Please, please. If you read your findings every time you get them, it won't take long after a while. It will not, because you know what you're looking at. When you look at when you look at the application, if you think about the application, it's like 9 pages long. You're not intimidated anymore because you've looked at it so many times. You know what is what. That's how these findings should be for you. DU, which is, Fannie Mae, LPA, which is Freddie Mac, and the Gus. All of that should be secondhand to you. Skim through it and make sure that there's nothing kooky that they're asking you because the findings saw something, or they, they looked at a risk that they just weren't coupled with. All 3 of these things must match. The only way that you know that they match is if you go through your documentation. This is how you take a lead and you bring it to the closing table, because you approach it with intent, you approach it with verification. You get to know your borrower. When you get to know your borrower, then the underwriter is asking you about your borrower, not telling you about your borrower. And that is it. I made it exactly at 1:31, Annette.
Woohoo! Awesome. Thank you, Dionne. Does anyone have a question? You can unmute yourself. You just made everyone so smart. They have no questions.
It was
Look
a
at
lot of
that.
information.
I know, but it's good. And anyone needs to review, we will be having it on YouTube so you can go back, which I love. Because sometimes you just need to I knew there was something in there and I missed it. Let me go back. So that's perfect. Thank you. Yeah. And I know that Laura, I'm not sure about Vanessa or Norma, but Kelly, you're going to be at conference, right? With
Yes,
your
I will be
husband.
there. Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So you ladies will get to meet Dionne in person.
I love it. I love it.
I
I was just looking at that behind you. I'm super excited about the event.
Like, we're here, we're here, we're here.
Yes.
Hey, Dionne, I
It's so
like your
weird to
shirt.
point.
I
Hi,
like your
Laura.
shirt. Her shirt is
Thank
like friends.
you.
It says, I'll be there for
Yes.
you.
Yes.
Sure.
I love
I
it.
have
Well,
what,
I mean, I know Kelly and you and Kelly and Dionne got to meet in person already, but I was talking
Yeah.
about the other ladies, but
Yeah, yeah.
we're just super happy that you've invested in our small but mighty, rebirthing of NAPMW. So thank you, Dionne. Did you have a question, Laura? No. Okay. Just
It's
commenting.
all just for now,
thanks.
but we're going to grow.
Yeah.
Thanks for doing
Oh,
this. It's nice to
yeah.
have.
Right. Little tips and tricks. Norma, did you have anything?
Yeah, I just want to say this is a reminder that I really needed because I've gotten lazy in my old age, and I did miss something recently. I'm working out, but this is a reminder, don't skip any steps.
You're really garbly. I'm having a hard time. Anyone else?
I'm not sure if she's talking to us.
Oh, okay. Okay. Got it. Okay.
You
Well,
just
thank you,
muted her.
Dionne. Thank you everyone for attending, and happy May Day. 1st of May. I can't believe it. I hope somebody leaves you a little May Day basket of flowers on your doorstep. We used to do that as kids, run and leave the flowers and ring the doorbell and hide in the bushes.